Dave on the Crafted channel. And if you've been watching my live streams, be sure to click live when you're on my channel. You'll see I've been playing around with model rockets. And these are snack can rockets or Pringles rockets. Of course, I'm just using materials from the grocery store. And these are great fun. This rocket has flown many times. Flies on a D motor. And I've actually had landings without the parachute opening. And it tumbles down just fine, although I recommend like an 18-inch parachute for these. But part of this process was me learning how to properly pack a parachute. And I thought I might offer these at some future point, so I wanted to make a video on how to build one. Just so that I don't have to do a big long instruction book. So here's what a single color kit looks like. Let's go through the parts in here. This is obviously a nose cone. These rockets incidentally are about 3 inches in diameter. This is a parachute stop, or it's not a baffle, but it's kind of like a floor to keep your parachute from dropping all the way down to the motor ejection gases. This is the wire guide, or the launch rod guide that you glue onto the side of the can. Now you might notice this is one of my early prototypes. I've got it a little bit high on this one. It really needs to be down lower. Here are the fins. It's a 4-fin rocket. And I'm planning on building the Cheeto can rocket with orange here at some point in the future. We're going to finish another rocket here. And this is the base of the rocket that holds the motor, and the I'm going to show you a really cool paperclip motor retainer. Now your cone and your base or your fin can may come with this this flexible thing here, and this is just a throwaway piece that helps me print it on the machine. I call this a curtain wall, which is a very handy 3D printing technique when you have an overhang, and as far as I know, I'm the inventor of that. And you want to go over your pieces. Like you can see, I've got, get up here a little closer, a little bit of that curtain wall stayed there, and you just kind of lay a knife on here and peel it off. You might have a little bumps and things that you want to correct or carve off, but the parts come out pretty nice as they are. So let me get these out of the way, and I think I'm going to keep that out of here. And Pringles makes a lot of different flavors. And after I built, this is my favorite flavor, the sour cream, I saw they had this scorching buffalo. So I thought, oh, wouldn't that be cool? And I'll make this one actually with multiple colors. And I'm using E6000 to glue these together. You don't need to use a lot of it. It's an excellent glue. In some applications, you can remove E6000. It's a popular thing to glue servos into a model airplane with, for example, if you want to be able to get them out at a later date. You could also, and the only thing that we got to glue here is we got to glue in this stopper ring, and we also tie our parachute cord to that. And we have to glue the fin can into the bottom of the rocket, and we have to glue the fins themselves. We're going to use black fins on the Pringles Scorchin'. You have to glue the fins into the slots on the fin can. So I guess I would say this is a level 1 rocket. I wouldn't call myself an expert in that area in any way. Now, the question becomes, how do you get the back off of the can? Well, this is how I do it. Take a good sharp utility knife, and I just use the lip here of the can as a guide. And I'm just going to slowly go around and around the can, trying to ride hard against the, I'm not doing a great job, trying to ride hard against the metal lip. And you might have to go around the can a few times to get that off of there. There are some rules in model rocketry. If you were to go to a launch somewhere and they're not kind to metal parts in the model rocket, because if you had some kind of motor explosion or something, it could form shrapnel. When I originally designed this, I just used a can opener and took the bottom out. But it really looks a whole lot better if you take this metal off and insert the fin can on the inside of the tube. I don't know if I'm through yet. Still feels like I'm cutting cardboard. There's metal. Feels a little different when the blade touches the metal. Now, I don't have these listed available yet, but I will at some time in the not too distant future, and which time I'll add a link to those at the bottom of the listing. All right, so let's see if it knocks out of there. I just dropped something in it. Oops, didn't come out. Let me get something heavier. Oh, here we go. This is a metal plier. Maybe this will knock it out. There we go. Looks like I've got it loose, but I'm not cut all the way through in a couple places. So let me continue that. And of course you can cut yourself doing this. Maybe I'm not doing this as well as I should, but just be careful. And when you pick your can out at the store, try to pick one out that doesn't have a dented rim on it. I noticed some of them, depending on how the box was thrown around when they were shipped, this metal piece will have a dent in it, which makes it a little harder to follow. And likewise, make sure this area isn't messed up. I don't cut this off. I may alter the kit in the future so that we cut that off and get rid of that. The cans are lined in a real thin aluminum foil, and it peels off of this pretty readily. So here's how the fin can fits, just like that, and pretty easy. The only thing you want to think about here is where do you want to locate those fins, because you don't want the fins where your rod guide is. And you might want to use your rod guide to kind of obscure something like that on the tube. So that's what I was thinking when I originally did the sour cream and onion one, but I wish I'd put it lower. So I'm going to put this one probably right here. So I'll align it so that the UPC code is between these two. Now the fins only need to be glued into the fin can. There's a slight gap here. You don't have to glue them to the can. Not necessary. So let's glue on some parts. Oops, wait a minute. Before we do that, I want to wipe the can out on the inside where I'm going to be putting adhesive. I don't want any oil in there. They don't seem to be oily inside like standard potato chips, but I'm sure there is some oil in there. So, and I've got a dowel rod here to let me swirl that around in there. And let's see, now for the E6000. So when you're pushing two things together with glue, it's good to put a little glue on the inside of the hole and on the outside of the piece that you're putting in. And you notice I'm not using very much here. It really doesn't take very much. The force of the motor is going to be pushing the fin can. It's going to be pushing the fin can into the thing. So I'm going to put some up here, and you really don't want to use too much here because it'll come out down here. And really, that's enough. I hope you can see that. And I'm going to kind of turn it as it goes in. That's all you got to do. Now I felt a little bit squeeze out. I'll just wipe that with a cloth. I want to make sure it's centered well. There we go. Excuse me. Now, we try to make these so that the fins have some friction going in here. You might have loose ones, and that's totally normal. And I'm just putting like a very small bead of glue there. And then where I'm pushing the fin in, I'm going to put some here too. And push the fin in. Now I've got a little bit of squeeze out there. I'll come back in a moment and correct that. Less is more. There's no point in making the rocket, particularly the tail of the rocket, any heavier than it needs to be. Oh, dummy. You would think I'd built one of these before. Okay. And you can see this goes pretty quickly. And you should, if your can gets damaged, you should be able to soak it in water and get all your plastic parts back and load them onto another can. Another method of doing this, which I have not tried yet, but I think it would work just fine, is to use Elmer's glue, because you could definitely soak that in water and get it to release. And I'm sure it would be fine for, you know, getting in the dew or something like that. This glue, this E6000, would be kind of difficult to clean off of the parts, especially in this groove if you ever broke a fin and wanted to replace it. But then again, you could just get a new fin can kit. And I'm using a fresh piece of paper towel for every one of these. Just kind of doing a little fillet. I don't think it's worth a whole lot of effort. You just basically want it to look pretty decent. And let me see, I'm going to go over it again with a fresh towel. And I keep picking a new little area of the towel, trying not to wipe any of the excess E6000 into the 3D printed parts. Okay. So if your fins are loose, you'll want to spend a few minutes holding them in or pushing them in. Looks like this one could be pushed in a little farther. There's plenty of friction on these, so I'm not going to have to manage this. But some of them I've had to squeeze the fins into the fin can and do that for just a few minutes. It doesn't take very long, and the glue will skin over and it'll hold itself just fine. Okay, so there's gee whiz, half the rocket done, I think. Now, another part. This retainer, which keeps the parachute from dropping too far down into the rocket. I like that about 5 inches in. So I just got a stick here with some tape on it. And I'm going to put some glue on this. Actually, correction. We need to cut the Kevlar cord. Now, Kevlar cord is the only thing you want to use. And I'm going to take there's about 8 feet of it, maybe 9. This is the 100-pound variety. I think you would only need the 50-pound variety, but it sure is hard to tie. When you look at this retainer, you'll notice that these rails here are against one surface and not against the other. So we want to tie to one of these rails the Kevlar cord. And what I'm doing is I'm going around the rail twice, and I'm just going to tie several knots in it. And this would be a little tricky to tie after you put it in, so I'm putting it in now. And this has worked really well. I haven't had one yank out yet. I'm going to put, just to be cautious, we'll put just a little dab of glue on the Kevlar there. Make sure it doesn't untie. And there we go. Now to install it, I want to be careful not to knock those fins. Let me make sure they are still seated, and yes, they are. So I want to put, you remember how I had glue inside the tube near the top and on the outside of the sleeve near the leading edge of the sleeve? Well, I want to put this glue in here inside the can. I'm just putting it on the dowel rod out of my range box, and I'm using the piece of tape as a guide, and I'm going to wipe it inside the can. And I'll see if I can do that so you can see me here. It's okay to put it just a little bit above where you eventually want it to land. That way we can push the ring through it. And I think everybody understands what I'm doing here. Okay, so I got that on there. And I'm going to put a little bit on the outside of the ring near the bottom. And some of this will, of course, wipe off on the tube, but there's a way to get it in there without wiping very much of it off. And I'll try to demonstrate that. Okay. Probably could have used a little bit less than that, but that's fine. Stuff's messy. So I'm going to put it in. I'm going to put it in like this. And I can squeeze the tube a little bit to ovalize it. I'm going to drop it down in there about where it goes. And I'm almost there. And let's see if I can share the experience. Push it down a little farther. There we go. And I wish I had a hook. I might need to hook that if I get it too low. Of course, too low is no big deal. Yeah, I have it a little bit too low. Here, just let me pull it up. Because I really want to put it just above my glue line and then push it down through the glue. Okay. There we go. So now I have it square. And I've got the tape at my 5-inch point. So I'll just use that to kind of get it equal everywhere. And if you put it a little deeper, that'll be fine too. It's really not that important. I just found that at 4 inches, my parachute was a little bit crowded. There you go. So that looks pretty good. Now, just because anything worth doing is worth overdoing, that could really be bad advice. I'm going to put a little bit of glue in a few spots around this string, around the Kevlar cord. I'm going to put a little bit of glue at the top. Okay, so it's got a lump of glue to pull over. Now, since I set it on the fins, and make sure these fins are still seated. And yes, they are still seated. And I'm done with the glue, I think. Close that up. I think you could use a lot of adhesives here. This is just a very fast drying one. Okay. Put that on the carpet. All right, now, I don't know whether this will be included with the kits or not, but I like using this high temperature fabric. Gee whiz, I've forgotten what it's called. Kevlar, not Kevlar. Oh well, I don't have to remember. But this is going to be my chute protector. And this is a lot better than using wadding or dog barf, which is, of course, treated newspaper insulation. Because those things end up becoming litter in the environment. They're supplies you have to buy. And I've had really good luck just with one sheet of this. And hope you can see the bottom here. We don't want this coming out a long way. I'll put it about right here. And I'm not going to do a lot to force it to stay there. I'm just going to put the string through it twice. Put the cord through it twice. And that way I can slip it up and down if I decide I want to move it. And let's put it through there 3 times. Okay. So that's good enough for that. And parachutes. You can make your own parachute. You can buy a Estes parachute. This is a signal flare parachute. I've bought a number of these off of eBay of different sizes. And I'm anxious to try one of these out. So I think I'm probably going to use this on one of my rockets here pretty soon. Let's see here. What do we want to do next? Oh, let's put the lug on. So just put some glue on the lug. And I put that over the UPC code. I have a rubber band here. We'll go on easier the other way, I think. Oh, it broke. That's wonderful. Well, what can we do for a rubber band? Here we go, got another rubber band. So I don't have to stretch it so far. I'll feed all this stuff through it. Slide it up over the launch lug. Now, because the launch lug curves around the can, it self-aligns. It really only wants to be on there parallel with the can. Move it down a little more. I'm just snapping it there to help it center up so it's not too tight on one side or the other. And I'll check that in a minute. And let's see, I'm going to have some fishing swivels here. And I'm tying a fishing swivel on here. Fishing swivel will be connected to whatever parachute I eventually want to use. And this end of the cord will go into the nose cone. See if I can get it out of there. A little bar built into the bottom of the nose cone here. There we go. And I'll tie it on here. Okay, so I got my parachute protector. We have our cord, we have our cone, we have a rocket here that is launchable as soon as the glue dries. Move that rubber band up a little bit. It was tilted back some. Really want that to be parallel all the way. And let's see, maybe I'll get another rubber band on it. I don't want to walk away from the stream here because I failed to prepare properly. Oh, that rubber band's no good. Okay, I think we'll be fine. Okay, so this isn't a parachute making video. This is just how to assemble this rocket. I assume if you're interested in this, you have some experience with model rockets. These will come without a parachute. That's for you to finish. One more thing we got to do here. We need to make the motor retainer. Now, it might not actually need a retainer because the motors are a little bit snuggly. Here's a spent D motor. Oh, that goes in there nice. Here is a small paper clip that's included. Okay. And I straighten out the outside leg of it. And we're going to put with the leg on this side, I'm going to put a little kink in the other piece. So we've got this shape here made. And We're going to put it down in there, and this little piece here will click in. You'll hear it click. Just like that. And I'm going to bend this over the rocket. So now I've got over the rocket motor. So now I have it marked. And I can use a pin of some kind to push on through this hole. And I should be able to get it back out of there. There we go. And so that's how I set the length of it. So now I'm going to hold it with pliers here and make that bend an actual 90-degree bend. And then I'm going to bend it back up with it at the tip of the pliers. You don't want this leg here to be very long. And then we don't want a pointy, sticky thing there to poke somebody. So we'll turn that back down. And that's what it looks like. Straighten it out a little bit. Install it back. And there you go. We have a motor retainer. And I can grab the edge of that motor with a plier, I hope, and pull it out. So there you go. So I think everything's doing well here. My ring is still inside where I thought it should be. And if you look at my other live stream videos, you'll see one where I'm packing a chute in this, and I show how to do that. But like I said, they're pretty light. I've even seen them come tumble down and not break a fin. I haven't broke anything on one of them yet. A lot of fun. I take a young fella out with me and let him push the button. Give somebody a little bit of a STEM experience and a little bit of adult influence. It's good for everybody, good for society. So rockets are a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed my instructional video. And I haven't launched one of these short ones yet. Looking forward to that. So I'm going to finish this up, and this will probably be the next flying video you see, is one of the short snack cans flying. All right, this has been Dave on the Crafted channel. We'll see you around.